r/NoSleep. Posted by u/JJX. I applied for a job at Mr. Bates' supermarket. It came with rules. I'm pretty sure everyone have once heard the phrase "we won't be on this earth forever to take care of you" at least once from your parents at least once. And trust me, it's annoying as hell. Well, if I'm going to be honest here, it's harder to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life after high school. I guess I should have planned out my life during high school. My name is Donnie and I recently graduated high school and I really don't know what I'm going to do with my life. Yeah, I want to go to college, but it doesn't feel like the right move at the moment. And since my parents are loving, caring parents, they threaten to kick my sorry ass to the curb unless I find a job or apply for college. So after a little procrastinating, I decided to apply for the easiest job I could find. I guess you can call me lazy. After about an hour of job searching, I was ready to close my laptop and call it a day, until in its own tab an advertisement popped up on my screen. Mr. Bates' supermarket is now hiring and looking for employees. Pay starts at $30 an hour. Come on down and try your luck and win an interview. I looked and reread the advertisement before taking the address down. $30 an hour? Sounds a little too good to be true, but who am I to turn down $30 an hour? Easy money. With taking the address down, I decided to head down to the supermarket today and try to get an early interview. I threw on my old blue hoodie and a pair of black joggers I had for a while now. Grabbing a brush, I quickly brushed my long jet black hair and grabbed a rubber band and put it up in a bun and headed downstairs. I grabbed my car keys and headed out the house and shut the door behind me. I got into my old beat-up 2000 Ford Taurus and drove off to said address. While driving, I noticed I was driving into the dangerous side of town. I really didn't mind, but knowing the history of this side of town kinda scared me. I arrived at the supermarket and parked my car in the small parking lot along with two other cars side by side. After I parked my car, I made my way toward the building. I instantly got a weird feeling from this place. I shook it off and entered the market. A cold chill ran down my spine as if I didn't want to be there or something bad was going to happen. As I looked around the market not paying attention to where I was going, I bumped into something hard and stiff. As I slowly lifted my head up, the object I bumped into was a large burly built man. He wore a black and gold fancy suit with a gold tie, his hair was short and black as he had it slicked back with a cigar in his mouth. He extended his hand toward me and gave me a half-assed smile. I slowly extended my hand and as he helped me up I looked him up and down. "Hey, are you Mr. Bates?" I said, trying not to show I was intimidated by his size and muscular appearance. "Sadly no. I am Mr. Bates' assistant, the name's Winslow, and I'm going to assume you are here for the interview." I slowly nodded my head and he led me down a couple aisles to a gray door surrounded by small brown boxes. "Wait here," he said while opening the door. Before I could mutter out a word, he shoved me into the room and locked the door. Slowly picking myself up, I looked around and saw that I wasn't the only person locked in the room. I would like to say around 10 to 15 people were in the room together, frantically trying to find a way out. Looking for answers, I approached a woman in her mid-20s with blonde hair and sunglasses covering her eyes. "Excuse me, where are we?" I asked while gently tapping her shoulder. She turned around and gave me a weird glance and took her sunglasses off. "I don't know. All I know is I was looking for a job and I found out about this place, and the next thing was I got pushed into here with others." As she spoke, the intercom turned on and a joyful voice came from the other side. "Welcome future employees, I am glad to introduce myself as Mr. Bates and I humbly welcome all to my fine establishment. However, this isn't some boring interview where you fill in applications and talk. Listen to the rules and listen carefully. Rule 1, beware of the seeker. Throughout the night he will hunt and track you down and try to kill you, so it's best to travel alone to not catch his attention. Rule 2, try to avoid using the restrooms at all costs. If you can't hold your bladder, avoid using the middle stall and the middle urinal. It's best if you not know for your sanity. Rule 3, this is a very important rule, so listen closely. Do not try to exit the market until sunrise for no reason. Should you try to escape, it would not end good for you. Rule 4, if you hear metal scraping off the walls behind you, do not move. It cannot see anything that's not moving, however if you make the slightest movement, kiss your life and family goodbye. Rule 5, if you are feeling hungry, feel free to come down to the deli, but be warned, do not ask or do not insult the food served to you. The deli workers are always looking for fresh meat to cook. Rule 6, if you hear commotion from the toy aisles, immediately come to the center and pray that they don't come loose and roam the nearby aisles. Rule 7, directly at 11:30. A new entity will be hunting you down for 19 minutes straight. The janitor closets will open, but be warned, only a couple of you can fit and they can smell your fear. Rule 8, you will hear massive footsteps around the shoe aisle. Do not under no circumstances head over there. Big Baby hates being disturbed and will do everything in its power to kill you. Rule 9, directly at 12:50. Do not hide in any aisle, because the hoppers will appear and they do not take kindly to any non-hoppers in their space. Rule 10, at 1:02 a.m. all of the other entities will vanish and my trusty assistant Winslow will be hunting you until 6 a.m. However, Winslow won't be the same as he is in the day. He will smell, track and kill until either he finds you all or time runs out, and let's say you don't want him finding you because his appearance isn't the prettiest. With the rules being said, I really hope you all were listening, and whoever lives to 6 a.m. gets the job and will be met with new rules. But until then, have fun. As the intercom turned off, we all stood in silence until the gray door popped open and slightly opened itself. God damn it, look what I got myself into, all for 30 damn bucks. The next story of this video. Posted by u/JJX. House 113. My name is Clancy, and I live in a fairly small neighborhood. I moved to Apple Ridge City about 6 years ago when I was around 9. The neighborhood was built in the early 60s, so you could say the neighborhood was ancient. Being a teenager in the mid-90s was a job itself. Keeping yourself out trouble and finding entertainment was difficult, especially when you're an only child. I had a small group of friends in the relatively small neighborhood. Anthony, Elias, and myself. To say we were inseparable would be an understatement. We were like brothers, and we were that close to one another that our families became close. Sure, there were other kids in the neighborhood, but all of them were bad apples. Not saying we were, but not as bad as them. House 113 was built around the same time as the neighborhood itself, I would say maybe a year after. The homeowners were an elderly couple that purchased the house during the late 60s, early 70s. They lived in the same small home for nearly 30 years. They slowly built a reputation for not liking teenagers. With each passing year, their hate for teenagers grew. Their home was targeted for egging and vandalisms daily. Until the incidents happened. Some of the teenagers of the neighborhood started to disappear. Slowly, one by one, each teenager vanished. The police were soon called and the investigation started. Some neighbors directed the police toward the middle-aged couple. Soon the police started searching the couple's property daily, and each time another teenager went missing. Since the police didn't have any real evidence on the couple, the case went cold around the late 70s. Some of the neighbors suspected that the couple were the reasoning behind all the disappearances, but there weren't any proof. So being the young dumb teens we were, we decided to ding-dong ditch their house. House 113 was in the far back of the neighborhood, surrounded by older unused houses and trees, so this was a perfect cover-up. The home was at least 7 minutes away from the nearest home, so it would take us a while to get down there, but once we figured out the plan, we would execute it. We finally decided to meet around the small oak tree not that far away from the trail leading to the house. The time we decided on was exactly 11, no more and no less. When 11 hit, I started walking toward the meeting spot. While walking, I started to have a little doubt in my mind. Ever got a feeling inside of your gut telling you not to do something? That's feeling I had until I got to the meeting point. Once I got there, Anthony and Elias were there waiting beside the small tree. Finally, "Took you long enough, man," Anthony said, walking toward me. Yeah, I'm not scared, just took my time," I said back while trying not to burst out laughing. While walking down the dirt road, and with our only light source that being the moonlight, with the house in view, we sat behind some bushes not that far from the house and decided who'll go first. Elias decided to go first, and he slowly crept up to the old wooden door. He banged on the door 3 times and ran toward the side of the house. After 5 minutes of no one opening the door, I decided to take a swing at it. The smell of irony and must quickly filled my nostrils once I got toward the steps of the door. I wanted to turn back and run home to the comfort of my house, but knowing my friends, they wouldn't let me live without teasing and taunting me about running away. Raising my fist, I banged on the door 4 times nice and loud. Turning around, I ran back toward the bushes and jumped into them, looking back at the door. Anthony growing frustrated, he stood up from the bushes we were hiding in and walked toward the door. He banged on the door, almost knocking them off the hinges, and stood there with his arms folded. I tried calling to him to come back and let's just go, but he protested and waited. Elias stood at the foot of the steps and leaned against the railing, looking toward the door. And something I can't explain clearly even 20 years after the incident happened. The door swung open and 2 pair of red eyes stood in the darkness looking at Anthony. One long bony arm reached for him while he stumbled down the steps. Elias slowly backed up in shock and fear. A creature slowly emerged from the dark doorway. It had the head of a deer, but its skull was long and narrow, but its antlers took up half its head and dried blood all over them. The thing reached for Anthony while he tried to crawl away and hopped onto his back and sunk its teeth into his neck. His screams were cut off by gurgling and flesh ripping. Elias snapped out of his daze and ran toward me. Pulling me up from the bushes, me and him ran down the dirt road, my lunges burning from running too fast. I looked behind me to see another of those creatures chasing us. I turned my focus ahead and ran harder. While running, Elias tripped over a branch and fell toward the ground. Without looking back, I kept running as his yells for help were cut by growing and flesh ripping. With the first lamppost in view, a feeling of relief washed over me. Footsteps from behind me grew closer, but I couldn't stop running, and I wasn't going to. I ran toward the first house I saw and banged on the door frantically until the homeowner came out and started yelling at me for waking up her household. She called the police and I was questioned multiple times by the police. I gave the same story I told my parents and my family. Nobody believed me. They all thought I was crazy. Nobody searched for my best friend's bodies. The neighborhood acted like they never existed, not even their parents. I don't know what really happened that night, but I wish it was a strange nightmare.